Hi, this is Said Mirza, and today is January 1st, 2022. In today's video, I wanted to look at the 5 pillars of the religion of Islam and show you that these pillars of Islam do not exist in the Quran, and their connection with the Quran is on very shaky ground. Now, coming from a Muslim background myself, it was drilled into my head that as long as I performed the five pillars of Islam religiously, I was guaranteed paradise. And if you're not coming from a Muslim background, let me just summarize to you what these 5 pillars are. The first is the Shahada, which is the testification of faith. The second is the Salat, which Muslims claim is ritual prayer. And the third one is Saum, which is fasting. The fourth one is Zakat, which is charity. And number 5 is Hajj, which is a pilgrimage to Makkah, Saudi Arabia. Now, right off the bat, you might notice that the recitation of the Quran, the reading of the Quran with understanding is absent from these 5 pillars of the religion of Islam. And that's no accident, because any man who engages with the Quran carefully and with understanding, he will quickly realize that the Quran does not contain any such 5 pillars. And since the Quran does not contain these fundamental pillars of the religion of Islam, we are forced to conclude that the religion of Islam is not in the Quran. Now, that doesn't mean that the word Islam is not in the Quran. The word Islam is in the Quran, but the word Islam, according to the Quran, just means submission. It's a general noun. It doesn't mean what Muslims claim it means, that it means a religion of Islam. And God willing, we'll talk about this further. But before we start, I wanted to let you know that a lot of ideas in this video and just material that I present overall, a lot of those ideas are from the groundbreaking work of Brother Gerrans titled The Quran, A Complete Revelation, which you can access for free on his website, Qur'anite.com. So let's just get right into the 5 pillars of the religion of Islam and kind of go over them and look in the Quran to see what we can find. So, as I mentioned, the first pillar is the Shahada, which is a testification of faith. And in Arabic, it goes something like this: La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, which translates to there is no God but God, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. Now, if you engage with the Quran, you might have noticed that this specific formula is not present in the Quran in totality. I mean, you can take bits and pieces from different places and say, okay, here's the Shahada, the testification of faith, but this complete formula, which is the foundational pillar of the religion of Islam, it's not present in the Quran. You can verify this. And there is no requirement to recite this formula either privately or publicly to enter the fold of Islam. When I used to go to mosques, I remember that there used to be converts who would come once in a while, and the Imam would lead this convert through the Shahada, the testification of faith. And after that, once he testified to there is no God but God and Muhammad is the messenger of God, then everyone would hug him, embrace him, and he would enter the fold of Islam. Unfortunately, this is not in the Quran. There is no requirement for it in the Quran. And since we've already looked at the Quran's sufficiency in regards to its guidance, that it's a complete book, scripture that does not need any outside literature to explain it, we are forced to conclude that this Shahada is invented and it's not a part of the doctrine of God. If you would like more information on the sufficiency of the Quran, I made a previous video, Is the Quran Sufficient? I'll put a link in the drop down box below, and you can take a look at that video, and you will see that the Quran itself, in clear verses, claims to be sufficient, to be clear, to be fully explained, to be fully detailed, to be from God, and that God explains the Quran and many other verses. There's no ambiguity about this. The Quran's stance is that it is a complete scripture that is sufficient for guidance for a sincere man. So again, if that's the Quran's claim, if that's what we believe in, then we are forced to reject this Shahada. So let's look at a statement in the Quran that is of relevance to our discussion. This is chapter 3, verse 18. God bears witness that there is no God save He, as do the angels and those of knowledge upholding equity. There is no God save He, the exalted in might, the wise. So here, this is chapter 3, verse 18. So here in this verse, God himself is testifying that there is no God but He, and those possessed of knowledge testify to this fact as well. So if there is a testification in the Qur'an, this is the testification that all believers must testify to. But again, the fact of the matter is that the Quran never commands that a specific declaration be made in public or private. It is a private affair between man and God, and the requirement to testify, at least the testification that the Muslims push, there is no God but God and Muhammad is the messenger of God, that is not born out of the Quran. We do, however, have conversions, if you will. We do have 3 personalities in the Quran whose submission to God is recorded. That event is recorded. And those are Prophet Abraham and the sorcerers at the time of Moses and Queen Sheba. So I'm going to recite to you those verses in the Quran that talk about their submission to God, the event when they decided that they were going to follow God's guidance and submit to Him. So this is chapter 2, verses 130 through 131. And who is averse to the creed of Abraham save he who befools himself? And we chose him in the world, and in the hereafter he is among the righteous. When his Lord said to him, Submit thou, he said, I have submitted to the Lord of all creation. Next up, we have the sorcerer's submission to God during the tyranny of Pharaoh. This is chapter 7, verses 120 through 122. And the sorcerers fell in submission. They said, We believe in the Lord of all creation, the Lord of Moses and Aaron. And finally, we have Queen Sheba's submission to God in the presence of Prophet Solomon. It was said to her, Enter thou the palace. But when she saw it, she thought it a body of water and uncovered her legs. He said, It is a palace made smooth with glass. She said, My Lord, I have wronged my soul, and I submit with Solomon to God, the Lord of all creation. That's chapter 27, verse 44. Now, there's another grave problem with the Shahada. And that is that Muslims, by reciting this Shahada, they are placing Muhammad as being a special messenger. They are making distinctions between messengers, and that is something that we are not to do. The Quran commands us not to do. If you confront the Muslims and say, well, why are you taking Muhammad's name with God, and why Muhammad exclusively, they will claim, well, he was the last messenger. But the fact of the matter is that their testification is not saying that he's the last messenger. Their testification is simply saying there is no God but God, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. And so if you push them and you say, okay, how about if you say there's no God but God and Moses is the messenger of God, they will obviously not comply, because even though they say that Muhammad is not a special messenger, by reciting this testification, this made-up testification, that's what they are claiming. Now let's look in the Quran, where we are told not to make any distinctions between the messengers. This is chapter 2, verse 285. The messenger believes in what is sent down to him from his Lord, as do the believers. Each believes in God and his angels, and his writs and his messengers. We make no distinction between any of his messengers. And they say, we hear and we obey. Thy forgiveness, our Lord, and to thee is the journey's end. So we should be hearing and we should be obeying what God is commanding us in the Quran, and we should desist from making any distinctions between any of the messengers of God. Now, perhaps the biggest problem with the Shahada is that we are attaching the name of a man, Muhammad, with the name of God the Almighty. And in that regard, the Shahada goes against the very strict imperatives in the Quran, the strict commands in the Quran to not take anyone besides God as a partner. And Muslims will, however, not agree to let go of their inherited and invented Shahada, because as it says in the Quran, and when God alone is remembered, the hearts of those who believe not in the hereafter shrink with aversion, but when those besides him are remembered, then they rejoice. And that is chapter 39, verse 45. So now let's move on to the second pillar of the religion of Islam, which is Salat. Muslims claim that the term Salat, as used in the Quran, means a ritual prayer. And they have 5 ritual prayers which they perform throughout the day. It's at certain times of the day. And again, if you're not coming from Muslim background, I'll just guide or show you how the salat works. You start by first doing washing yourself. It's a specific ritualistic washing ablution. It's called wudu in Arabic. So the Muslims do that, and then they stand up, facing the direction of the stone idol in Makkah, the Kaaba, and having done that, they start the prayer. And the prayer's format in broad strokes is that they first stand, they recite some verses from the Quran. Whether they understand it or not is immaterial. After that, they bow, then they stand up, then they fall down in a prostration movement, which entails them getting on their hands and knees and putting their forehead on the ground, and then they sit, and then they prostrate again, and then depending on which time of day it is, which salat they're performing, they might do this set of movements multiple times. And when the salat is concluded, they greet the angels on both sides of their shoulders, because their belief is that the angels are sitting on their shoulders. And the reason I'm intimately familiar with this ritual is because I have performed it for the better part of my life. So I've done it myself, so I know how it all works and what the beliefs are behind it. Now, let's look in the Quran to see what the Quran has to say about the salat. Well, the first thing is that the Quran does not have the names of all these salats. This is a verifiable fact again. Again, I want to impress upon you that the Quran is claiming to be complete, fully detailed, and clear, and preserved, and a guidance from God, and sufficient. So there really is no room for us to say, well, we have to go to some other literature, some like the Hadith, to find the details of these rituals. If these since this is the second pillar of the religion of Islam, it is so important, then we would expect to find the names of these five prayers. We only find the names of two, Fajr and Isha. And some Muslims claim that when the Quran uses the word Wusta, Salatul Wusta, the median prayer, the middle prayer, that's what it is referring to, the third prayer. But again, we're still stuck with not having all the names of this all-important ritual, the second pillar of the religion of Islam. And to make matters worse, the Quran does not detail this entire ritual from beginning to end in one thread. Muslims, what they do is they stitch together bits and pieces. They say, okay, here the word Arabic word sajda, it means submission, it means prostration, and here the word ruku, it means bowing, and they kind of do a mishmash of all these things, and here's the ritual prayer. But again, we can't run away from the fact that the Quran does not give us the details of this ritual, this all-important ritual, in one go. Now, if we take a step back and look at the word salat, all the verses that contain this Arabic term salat, if we look at all the verses in the Quran, and just kind of see what the Quran is saying about it, then we are forced to admit that the idea that the salat is a ritual prayer does not find purchase in the Quran. The only term that makes sense is the word duty. And I give credit to Brother Gerrans for this. And if you want to know, how he arrived to that conclusion, you can check out his work and see why the word salat can only mean duty if we look at all the instances of the word salat in the Quran. Now, that's not to say that worship is not duty. Of course, worship is duty. Worship is salat. But to say that all salat is worship, that does not, unfortunately, that does not make any sense within the context of the Quran. There are other things that would be encompassed by the word duty, such as remembering God, reciting the Quran, fighting in the way of God, giving charity. These are all duties. So when the Quran uses the word salat, it means it in a general term as duty, and you can infer what that duty is by looking at the context where that word is used. And God willing, I will make another separate video about this subject, because I think it deserves special attention. So just to recap, Muslims, unfortunately, when they read the Quran, they're so brainwashed because of the years of brainwashing that they've been through, that every time they see the word Salat, they reflexively think ritual prayer. And they can't seem to wrap their head around the idea that the Quran is using it in a generic sense only, and it just means duty. And that since the Quran is claiming to be complete and fully detailed and self sufficient, then we need to look for the meaning of a word within the Quran, and not go to outside sources to, I guess, give credence to what our assumptions are about a term. So that's Salat. Now let's talk about Saum, which is fasting. This is the third pillar of the religion of Islam. Now I agree with Muslims that the word Saum does mean fasting, and the Quran does prescribe to the believers to fast regularly. However, Muslims have turned this fast into a special event, which is the holy month of Ramadan, in which they fast 30 days and or 31 days, depending on the cycle of the moon. But the bottom line is that the Quran is not commanding us to fast in a special holy month in a year. We need to be doing regular fasts throughout the year. And obviously, we must abstain from eating and drinking and sexual intercourse when we are fasting. And the amount of fasts that you need to do every month, the number of fasts, that is left up to you. And I'm going to be reciting to you what the Quran commands in regards to fasting. This is chapter 2, verses 183 to 187. That is about fasting. O you who heed warning, fasting is prescribed for you, as it was prescribed for those before you, that you might be in prudent fear. For days numbered, and whoso among you is sick or on a journey, then a number of other days. And for those who are able to do it is a redemption, feeding a needy person. And whoso does good voluntarily, it is better for him, and that you fast is better for you, if you would know. A moon of scorching heat was that in which the Quran was sent down, a guidance for mankind, and clear signs of the guidance and the division. So whoso among you witnesses the moon, let him fast in it, and whoso of you is sick or on a journey, then a number of other days. God desires for you ease, and he desires not for you hardship, but that you complete the number, and that you magnify God for guiding you, and that you might be grateful. And when my servants ask thee concerning me, I am near. I respond to the call of the caller when he calls to me. So let them respond to me, and let them believe in me, and that they might be guided. It is made lawful for you on the night of the fast to go in unto your woman. They are a covering for you, and you are a covering for them. God knows that you deceived yourselves, so he turned towards you and pardoned you. So now lie with them and seek what God has prescribed for you, and eat and drink until clear to you be the white thread from the black thread of the dawn. Then complete the fast until night, and lie with them not when you remain in the places of worship. Those are the limits of God, so approach them not. Thus does God make plain his proofs to men, that they might be in prudent fear. So that's the totality of the verses that talk about fasting, as in, the procedure and how you should go about it. You might have noticed that the Quran shies away from giving a number. I mean, I've read these verses many, many times, and when I was first investigating Salah, it was the Psalm fasting. I wondered, why wouldn't the Quran just give us a number? But there's a reason for it being kind of a fuzzy idea. Numbers, days numbered, which in Arabic is adad. The Quran, the God is giving us the leeway to decide, depending on our fitness level, on our dedication level, on our other priorities, how many days we have to fast. Another thing I wanted to point out is that the Muslims love to use the term here, a moon of scorching heat. They say this is saying Shahada in Arabic is Shahar Ramadan, which is the month of Ramadan. The word Ramad means scorching. This is, you can look it up in any standard Arabic lexicon. So the Quran is just saying a moon of scorching heat in which the Quran was sent down. So it was a hot month. That's all it's saying. But what the Islamic religion has done to justify that this Ramadan means is a name of a month, they have invented a whole Islamic calendar, and they have included a month in there called Ramadan. Again, the Quran does not give us any it doesn't give us the instructions on how to create an Islamic calendar, and doesn't give us the names of these months. This is all made up. So I think that is pretty much all I wanted to say about Psalm fasting. Let's look at the next pillar of Islam, which is Zakat. And according to Islam, Zakat is a mandatory charitable contribution, which is often considered to be a tax in Muslim countries, specifically that I know of, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. The government just takes this money from your bank accounts every year, and who knows where that money goes. But anyway, it's a 2.5% of one's savings that you are supposed to give to the needy and in charity. This 2.5% is not in the Quran. Again, these are verifiable things. This percentage is nowhere in the Quran, and the Quran uses the word sadaqah to mean charity. And he has given us leeway again to decide how much money we want to give in charity. And according to Quran, zakat means purification. And I shall investigate this word carefully in another video, God willing. But we can certainly make the claim. We're going to certainly, in defense of the Muslims, we can say something like, okay, yeah, while charity is an important avenue for self-purification, as in it leads to the purification of one's soul, and I agree with that. But again, the word zakat itself just means self-purification. It does not mean charity. Okay, the last pillar of the religion of Islam is Hajj. And this Hajj is an annual pilgrimage to the Kaaba, which is a stone idol in Makkah and Saudi Arabia. And the reason why I'm calling this the stone idol is that because that's what it is. That's what happens over there. If you have cared to look at any videos, I have gone myself there. Like I said, I was a Muslim, so I used to practice all these rituals. So I've gone there and I've done the tawaf, the circumambulation. So I know what goes on there. I've seen it with my own eyes. And for those of you who don't know what happens around there, I'll just kind of give you a brief overview. Okay, the first thing that Muslims do is that when they reach a certain point, when they're going on this pilgrimage, they have to take off their regular clothes and put on a special wardrobe that's called the ihram. And then, the Hajj is sort of started for them. Now, the first thing they do is when they reach Makkah, Saudi Arabia, they reach the Kaaba, the cube, is that they perform a circulation around it 7 times. And they try to kiss a special stone called the Hajjul Aswad, which is a black stone encased in one corner of this Kaaba. And then after that, they walk or run through, they traverse these 2 hills 7 times, okay? And they say these are the 2 hills that are named in the Quran, Al-Safa and Al-Marwa. I'm not going to debate about that, so we'll just leave it to the side. Then after that, they throw 7 stones at 3 pillars on separate occasions, okay? They say this is the stoning of the devil. After that, nearing the end of the pilgrimage, they have to slaughter an animal. So because now there's millions of people there for the Hajj ceremony, they can't really do that. So what they do is they purchase animal sacrifice vouchers, which basically means that allows for the animal to be slaughtered on a certain day, and the pilgrim doesn't have to be present. And that meat makes it to the needy somehow. Finally, the pilgrims then conclude the Hajj by performing a farewell tawaf. That is, they go back to the Kaaba and they perform a circumambulation of this stone cube 7 times. And that concludes the Hajj ritual. Now, like I said, any objective man who witnesses these things would declare that they are pagan rituals. And the Muslims, they love to talk about the Hindus as being idol worshippers and worshipping stones and deities, etc., etc., but they are blind to the fact that they are bowing and prostrating in front of this stone idol. Not only when they go to do the Hajj ceremony, but also when they perform the Salat, because if you remember, the Salat entails the movements, bowing and prostrating, and the direction in which they do this, the direction they're facing, they call this the Qibla. It's basically them facing or trying to face the direction of the Kaaba in Makkah, Saudi Arabia. Now, it is true that the Quran does mention the Hajj, but the Quran's usage of this term is again at odds with how the religion of Islam perceives it to be. The Quran is using it to mean debate, and the point of the Hajj was debating with the people and calling them towards God and feeding the poor, and it was not to go and circle a stone idol 7 times and bow and prostrate to it. Now, if you want more details about this Hajj, I made a separate video that deconstructs this Hajj ritual according to Quran. So I would suggest you check it out. I'll put a link in the drop-down box below. So to basically summarize, the Hajj is practiced by Abraham, Muhammad, and the believers is no more. We do not have the exact specific details of when this ritual was to be performed or whatever this thing was, and we don't even have the site. We don't know where that site was, the site that this Hajj ritual was being performed at. Obviously, the Muslims claim that this is the Kaaba in Makkah, but again, more research needs to be done because there's a lot of discordance with how the Quran is using the scenery and describing the scenery and describing what's happening there versus what's happening in Makkah, which is pure idol worship. And obviously the Saudis are not in a hurry to disclose to people that this is not the site of the original house that Abraham constructed. Again, because if you read the Quran, you know that it says that the first house was established in Bakka. It doesn't use the word Makkah. So all that to say that more research needs to be done to find out where this exact site was. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because this site is now close to the believers. And if you want more details on that, I suggest you check out Brother Gerrans' work. He's done an excellent job of exposing the Quranic verses that talk about this. And whatever this thing was, it's over. It's now passed into history. So to continue to do this thing, this is idol worship. Okay, final point here. The word tawaf that Muslims say means circling the Kaaba 7 times. If you look in the Quran for how this word is used, because it's used many times in the Quran, you will see that it never means a ritualistic movement of circling anything 7 times. It's just a general term that means to move about and mingle. And this is the sort of the legwork that you need to do. You have to look in the Quran for the values across it and look at the context to uncover the meanings of these words. So I do encourage everyone to verify the claims I'm making and verify the claims that Brother Gerrans is making. And now you have an excellent utility, reader.quranite.com, where you can look up the Arabic roots for any word and go through the Quran quite easily. This facility was not available before, but it is available now. So again, check out the claims that Brother Gerrans is making. Verify for yourself that the word Salat cannot mean a ritual prayer, and verify for yourself that the word Hajj cannot mean this idol ritual that is going on in Makkah, Saudi Arabia. So to recap, there can be no doubt that the 5 pillars of the religion of Islam were derived from non-Quranic sources. They are not in the Quran. And since we do not find the details or mention of any pillars in the Quran, then we are forced to conclude that the religion of Islam is not in the Quran, but a later development and has nothing to do with Islam, which just means submission to God. And that is the doctrine that God enjoined upon all his messengers and prophets, including Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. God willing, until next time, peace and blessings be upon you.